When it comes to carving in the round, the carver's screw is probably my favourite, most useful bit of kit. I think it's incredible value for money. This is one by Stubai. It's got a nice fat thread used for larger sort of work. And this is one by Veritas, a smaller thread used for smaller work. They are very versatile, and I want to show you now how you put them into a piece of wood. The carver screw tapers, and what you need to do is to put in a pilot hole, estimate it with your, just by eye with a drill bit here, a pilot hole right down to the bottom of where you think the screw might sit, and then one or more second holes that just allow for a bit of that taper, a little expanding. And if it's a very wide screw, you might even have a third one up here. This piece of wood represents the back of my carving, and I need to very carefully position the screw into a thick piece of the work so that it doesn't come through when I carve. So I put in my pilot hole first, and this pilot hole wants to be square, truly perpendicular to the back of the carving. A good way to do that is to use a credit card or some old store card to get a square position. Or if you score it and bend it truly, you can use this to do both sides at the same time and position the pilot hole very square. We then drill this in. To how deep you think it should go. Then you swap to the slightly larger screw drill bit, like so, and you drill down a little bit into that pilot hole. Now the screw itself will start fitting into there, and you can use the square socket onto the square of the screw itself to drill that, to screw that in. So this should now go square into the wood. Don't screw it all the way in. Screw it until it's nice and tight, so that gives you a little bit of an ability to adjust it if it gets loose later on. So now you've got your screw into your piece of work. The real secret of using the screw is to find different ways in which the screw itself can be held, adjustable ways, pieces of wood and so on. And one of my favourite ways is a simple post of wood like this. The screw goes into the post. You'll need a washer on the back. Run the screw down. So there's our carving held to our post. The larger holes here, by the way, are for the larger Stubai screw. This one takes a smaller one. So this can then be held in a vise like this, either horizontally like this, where you're leaning over, you can get all round the piece, or you can have the carving vertical in the vise like so, or different angles. Now, one of the things about this setup here is that it's actually really not a good idea to clamp any piece of wood at one end of a vise, whether it's a carpenter's vise or something like this. The stress is exerting and twisting the vise, and with a cast iron vise you can actually break it. So what you need to do is actually block the other side of the vise equally. And I have a few bits of wood like this, simple offcuts that will just drop over the bars at the other side of the vise, and if they're not quite the right width for this post, for example, then you just tap a wedge in here, something like that, and then when you clamp the two together, the whole vise is stressed equally and is quite safe. So this is a good way of working. You can move the work around, you can adjust it, you can turn it to 45 degrees, you can have it horizontally, you can have it upside down. So very simple way of adapting the carver's screw to a great variety of work positions.